3 statistical secrets that you need to know heading into the Australian Grand Prix. Welcome to the Pit Wall, your stop for fantasy Formula One content. You can like and subscribe for more content like this. I'm Jay Jack, and let's go. The first statistical secret is the track. It has been over 2 years since racing has been held at Melbourne, and it's finally returning. In the interim, they changed many of the corners, they resurfaced the entire track, and they are believing 4 seconds faster lap times. Perhaps the craziest thing is this track has 4 DRS zones, the most that has ever been on a Formula One track. To put this in perspective, in the history of the race being held at Melbourne, there has only been 1 pass for the lead. In all of history, 1 pass for the lead, which means that these 4 DRS zones and the much faster corners, taking out most of the chicanes and slow, tight corners, widening the track, is going to result in some crazy, fast, side-by-side racing. That now brings us to the 2 main title contenders, Red Bull and Ferrari. Red Bull has the higher top-end speed. They've been beating Ferrari on the straights the entire time during free practice session 1 and 2, but Ferrari has the quicker lap time. That's because they have better cornering speed. And so it's going to come down to who is able to set up their DRS detection points and who is able to make the pass stick before the other guy is able to attack back and forward over the course of the lap. Maybe we're going to get a fight the entire race. The point is, pick a driver who you think is going to be able to stick with the pack but be in front and not stuck in a DRS train. A DRS train is when you have multiple cars behind each other in the detection zone, so they're getting DRS behind the lead car. The lead car, though, has higher downforce setup than the cars behind, and so they can never pass him down into the corners because he has a faster cornering speed or he's able to outbrake the guys behind. So you want a driver that's either going to be at the front of the pack or someone who you think is going to have a good pit stop to be in fresh, clean air. The second statistical secret is reliability and upgrades. Here's the report on the teams that brought upgrades. Red Bull with a front wing end plate, Ferrari with a new diffuser, Alpine with a floor and rear brake cover, McLaren with winglets, which is the rear corner, Aston Martin with a rear wing, Haas with a diffuser, and then the one with the most, Williams with a beam wing, which is in the back underneath the main wing, a floor, a front wing, a front brake duct, and that means that this car is going to look different. Crazy thing is Williams and Haas are still at the back, so it's not making the changes they want. But 3 teams that brought no upgrades: Mercedes, Alfa Romeo, and AlphaTauri, which is then a puzzler for Mercedes because without any new upgrades, no hope that they're going to be able to gain more time on this track. Other notable changes is for Norris, who took a new power unit. That means he's probably safe for this race, but that means that there are continue to be reliability issues. That's his 3rd engine for this season. 3rd race, which means that moving forward, he's likely to get a grid drop penalty for taking new engines. Same thing with Alonso, who also had to get a new power unit after the blow up in the last race. That's 3 races, 3 power units. You want to be looking out for the reliability of McLaren and Alpine. AlphaTauri doesn't seem to be having issues like they did last race, but keep that in the back of your mind. Aston Martin with Vettel coming back, but he wasn't able to get any runtime during free practice session 2, and his car caught on fire and was smoking at the end of free practice session 1. Vettel would probably be a good option if it looks like in free practice session 3 he's able to get some good lap times in and be faster. Right now, you still want to avoid those Mercedes-powered cars. Lastly, you have Haas, who brought a new chassis for both cars. Of course, Mick Schumacher crashes and Magnussen, they decided to give him a new chassis, but it doesn't seem like that is making the desired effect that they want, and those cars are way off the pace. You want to look in free practice session 3 to see if they're going to be able to get some of that performance back. The third statistical secret is streaks and money. I want to start off with the value pick, Ocon. What I'm about to show you in the statistics shows why he has been rising in sentiment and probably a really good option for your team. Let's kick it over to the Google spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet I've built. You can find the link in the description below. I have been keeping track of the free practice performances leading up to the races. So let's look at the last track, Saudi Arabia, which is very fast, and because of the new corners of Australia, it's just as fast. Ocon was 8th fastest in free practice session 2. He ended up being 5th fastest in qualifying, and that translated well during the race. Look at this. He is now P6 in both FP1 and FP2. He's the 5th best driver with the aggregate with his P6 averages. Let's look at some of the other people who we've highlighted over the time. I hinted at Magnussen not getting really good performance with a new chassis. If you can look at Saudi Arabia at FP2, he was 20th, but he bounced back to 10th in qualifying. So make sure that you are checking out Magnussen during free practice session 3. In FP1 and FP2, he was languishing in the rear. That gives him a really bad average. If we scroll down to the teams, you can see Haas has fallen to the back of the pack. So there's something that they need to work out. Whereas Alpine has been able to get pretty good consistency near the front of the grid. And we should expect both Alonso and Ocon to be able to be right up there, best of the rest. We have Sainz, who was able to have the top time for the first time in any free practice session while at Ferrari. And then, of course, Leclerc took that back. That means it's a Ferrari 1-2 with Verstappen and Perez right behind. We do see good results from Norris. If we scroll back over, he was 7th in FP2 for Saudi Arabia. He dropped to 11th during qualifying. But here he is, right up at the top again, 5th fastest in FP1 here in Australia, 8th fastest, which gives him a 6.5. Hamilton seems to continue having his issues because of the upgrades that never came from Mercedes. 5th fastest in Saudi Arabia, dropped to 16th during qualifying, 7th fastest in FP1 of Australia, 13th fastest in FP2, and now that puts him an aggregate of 10, which now brings us right back to our constructors. As you can see, Mercedes is floundering, and it seems like McLaren is perhaps unlocking something. So keep an eye out for Norris and Ricciardo. Jumping over to the infographics tab, we see here a nice graph that shows teammate battles. As you can see, Leclerc is a must-have on your team because he has beaten Sainz in both qualifying the race 100% of the time. That means he's getting +5 points every single race, and if you're turboing him, that then translates to +10. Vettel and Stroll split, Verstappen and Perez split, and I'll get back to Verstappen and Perez when we get to our lineups later. Then, of course, Magnussen and Albon beating their teammates 100% of the time. Russell, of course, is cheaper than Hamilton, and that's why he's favored. Norris beating his team most of the time. But there's Ocon. Remember how I said Ocon was a value pick? He's beating Alonso 75% of the time. Which now brings us to our rank tab. You'll see in the middle of this rank tab the prices of the drivers. Yellow means that they're 0.3 million or less separating between the two drivers. Ocon and Alonso are pretty much the same price. Ocon's a little bit more expensive because his value has been going up. Hopefully he's been someone on your team to get that points and money pick. But look at the value. Magnussen is still a 3.4 points per million. That may take a tank after this race, but we will see. A driver who's at the back might still benefit from people DNFing in front of him. But look at Ocon, 4th highest with a 1.6 points per million, a value of 2.7. That's why I keep striking home that Ocon is a value pick. Now let's go down our second component, which is called streaks. Ferrari and any constructor that has both drivers finish in the top 10 during quali and the race gets a little tick in their streaks. Ferrari is going to be able to get a quali streak and a race streak this race. You want to have Ferrari on your constructor because that can be 15 more points. Great bonus. Red Bull can get +5, Mercedes can get +10, but with the 1-2 dominance of Ferrari, it's looking like a surefire thing. Look at Ferrari with a 2.7 points per million with a value of 14.3%. They are just way powerful, and you want to have them on your team. They're about to peak actually as we speak. They're at 98% sentiment, and they are a must-have. Now time for my picks. Here are my two teams. On the left is my steady team. On the right is my day trading team. I did use a wild card after the first race on my day trading team. I have a total value of 103.7 million, whereas my steady team has a 103.3 million. That's only a $0.4 million difference. Was it really worth it? I don't know, but I'm holding on to my wild card for team 1 for when the time comes that I get a lot of streaks lined up where you can get those +5, +10 bonus points. We also see that this has the exact same lineup on both teams, but as I said before, Ferrari at 99% sentiment, Perez 99% sentiment, Magnussen, even though he had some difficulty, is still hovering around the 80%. Ocon for sure is probably going to continue to rise with his performance. The two Ferraris are going to continue to rise with their 1-2 domination. But let's look, what are some of the alternatives? Because some of you might want to know, when do I have Verstappen on my team? So here is the issue that we have. If you have Leclerc, Sainz, and Perez, you have 3 of the 4 top drivers. If you were to put Verstappen on your team, you can only have the top 2 drivers. Because, for example, I cannot put Verstappen on this team and be able to afford Perez and Sainz. So now I have 10.2 million left. If I put in someone by Bottas, that is an option. I could have 0.7 million left. That could be if you want to guarantee a win, but it all depends. Do you think Sainz and Perez might be able to nick some wins, some victories this season? Because then that could be a good option. What is an alternative strategy that we could do? Well, with my 5.6 million left over, I can at any time switch between Ferrari and Red Bull. Oh no, I cannot. Okay, that's because I had Bottas before and now I have Ocon. So I can no longer afford to have Red Bull. Fascinating. So if I wanted Red Bull, I would have to switch from Ocon to Bottas. There you go. Now I can afford him. This is not what I would recommend because Ocon seems to be much higher speed and consistent than Bottas at this time, and his value has been going up. Red Bull is only an option if you cannot afford Verstappen, and this is the reason. Having a constructor means that you get the points of both the drivers. Instead of having Verstappen by himself, why not have Perez and Red Bull, which gives you the points of Verstappen plus the points of Perez. So it's like turboing Perez. One last thing that we could potentially do. Let's say that Magnussen isn't looking very good with his car. We drop Magnussen with 11.6 million. I can then afford Bottas for sure. And if I think that Bottas is going to outperform Magnussen, because Magnussen will be languishing at the back, and I don't think Bottas will have a reliability issue DNF like he did last race, then boom, Bottas is going to definitely score more points. If you get a driver in the top 10, you will score more points than somebody who is at the back hoping that people are going to DNF. This is our Pitwall Seasonal League. Link in the description below. The point of having a team or teams on this league is so that you can see what other people are doing to learn and try to figure out what your best strategy can be. Now, the one race challenge, link and code in the description below, is where you get a single team entrant and you get to compare yourself to everybody else who joins, and the top 3 scoring positions get a special podium ceremony at the end of our next podcast, but also you get your names etched on our leaderboard. But don't forget, we do not have the mega drivers part of our calculations. We do base points. So if you have a mega driver, that's fine. Do it in any league. Just realize that we will then divide that number by 3. As soon as I stopped recording my team picks, Ferrari and Perez have gone up by 0.1 million each. So that goes to show how important it is to keep track of your team, see when the sentiment is rising, and make sure you get a points pick and a value pick, because money doesn't mean anything unless you're scoring more points than the other teams you're going up against. And thanks for being a part of this great statistical deep dive. Don't forget, pay attention to the free practice session 3 for watching when they do their quali sims. And don't forget that the race is an hour earlier than quali is the day before. So don't oversleep or stay up and miss the race. And until next time, I'll see you on the pit wall.